All right, here we go with the second video for chapter 2. I have really a concern. I am a gardener. I plant things and attempt to make them grow. What this has to do with abnormal psych, probably if you saw what I am growing, you would be able to relate to abnormality a little bit better. Well, what I have found, and it concerns me, the crop starts out slow. I mean, I have big plants and blossoms and so forth. But what I'm lacking is bees. Bees, bees. There's no bees to pollinate. 3 years ago, in our flower bed, my wife really has a beautiful flower bed. The bees were so thick in there that when my great-grandson would come up to play, he couldn't play in that area of the flowers. And there's nice little things to play with in there and so forth, so it was okay that he played. But he couldn't play in that area of the flowers because of the number of bees. Now, the last couple of years, no bees. Where have they gone? And some of the plants need bees to pollinate. And I think it's kind of interesting, and there are concerns about that. But nonetheless, I thought I would share that with you. If any of you garden and you have any extra bees, maybe you could send me some. I don't know. But anyway, hopefully, the bees do come, but not very many. I can count the number of bees on one hand, but they do a good job. And so, that's all that counts. But there's not the kind of hordes of bees anymore. Okay, on with the integrative approach in chapter 2. And what we are doing, we're integrating the environment and that which is inherited. That's that, plain and simple. We are not going to learn a bunch of biological terms, and I like biology, and I appreciate the terms they have, but we're not going to look at it. And I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if you've ever heard of the blood-brain barrier, initial BBB, and I think you can see the connection between the initials. An individual was experimenting. He injected some blue dye into the blood system of an individual. And if you inject a blue dye or blue coloring, if you inject that into a blood system, what would you expect to happen? The blood turned blue. Right on. Very good. Very good. Except in the brain. In the brain, it remained red. The conclusion from that is that there is a blood-brain barrier that keeps out unwanted material from reaching the brain. Now, there's some material that can get through. There's some material that is supposed to get through. And these drugs that we have, that's material that can get through. We may not want these drugs to get through, but they can get through. Especially, I'm talking about illegal drugs. But then we have meds, when we're feeling bad and we have a headache, and we can take an aspirin, and that aspirin goes through the blood-brain barrier and makes our head all better. Oh, how nice. But if we would take opium can go through the blood-brain barrier. Now, the reverse was tried in this, and I'm not going to go into all the intricacies of addictions. The lock and key, maybe we'll talk about that when we get to addictions. But we're looking at an element that's taken from the environment, from nurture. We're ingested into the inherited component, what we can call nature, and we have an effect. The brain is hijacked, just like those 10 individuals I was talking to you about that overly imbibed, and they all exhibited some type of behavior. Now, what is interesting about the blood-brain barrier is this. Well, first of all, there's a couple of things interesting. Another individual, this assistant of this scientist, injected a blue substance into the brain portion of I would say an animal. And what would you expect happened? Yes, the brain turned blue, but the rest of the blood in the system remained red. So again, we have the blood-brain barrier, and it shows that it works both ways. Okay, continuing on now. Stress. Have you ever heard of stress? And I'm going to pick this up now. Stress can enlarge that blood-brain barrier and allow material into the brain that maybe is not really wanted. Think about it a little bit. Okay, the integrative approach, we have behavioral influences, biological influences, we have emotional concerns, the way we act, and we're just expanding this. I think with a blood-brain barrier, we'll cover a lot of this. And I do have some pages here of the text that I'm going to cover, which will probably be in video C, C as in cat. Okay, we have a one-dimensional model that all behavior, all emotional aspects are from a single cause. And then this is what is interesting, the diathesis stress model. And we've got to take time to look at this because this is just so interesting. And this is on page 34 of your text. And I have your text in front of me, and if we have time, we're going to cover some of this material. But there's a long allele, LL, and there's a short allele. Basically, what happens is that the individuals with the short allele are subject to environmental influences more so than the individuals with the long allele. And the individual that explained this, that sometimes we may wonder why we have a family of so many children, not too many children, but an X number of children, and the kids just turn out great with the exception of one. It's just a regular renegade. They don't really fit with the rest of them. And they're all in the same environment. Some of the aspects that may be taking place here is this, is that all of the kids, with the exception of the one that they had concerns with, had the long allele, and the other one had, which is a copy of the gene, and the other one had a short allele, and the environment works and results differently whether or not a person has a long allele and a short allele. So the diathesis stress model really looks at this, looks at the makeup of the individual and how the behavior is affected by the environment. Now I have a couple of things here. The three forces, this is just a review. The three forces as far as therapy are concerned. Sigmund Freud, psychoanalytical, believed in the unconscious, believed in the black box, and we have some material on the black box here. Then we have behavioralism, which is the second force. Pavlov, Skinner, and Watson was in there also, and they believe that basically an individual's motivation and so forth is controlled by the environment. Then we have humanism as a third force, and that was developed by two individuals by the name of Maslow and Rogers, based somewhat on another approach that is called existentialism. And existentialism, if it does nothing else, it says that each and every one of us are responsible for ourselves. We make a choice, we live by that choice, but we are responsible for our own behavior. Rogers also, and Maslow too, you know, they looked at the individual and they moved them from where they're at. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention. Okay, we have biology of the brain and the nervous system, and these are some of the pages you might want to take down, and I'm just going to cite this. One is the role of serotonin, which you can find on page 79 on your text. Now I'm going to continue this, and we're going to get through it with video C, which will be the third video, and hopefully that we can focus in on some of these areas and understand that it is an integrated approach, that it takes both nature and nurture. So some individuals say it's all nature or it's all nurture. No way. It is both. See ya on video C as in cat.